Michael, you must be pleased with the performance and the work rate in the midweek match, but it'll be a very different test against Blackburn because they're a fluid team and good passers, and I think they've scored the second highest amount of goals this season.
Yeah, definitely a different type of game. I think QPR football inside as well, but possibly don't have the quality in the key areas that Blackburn clearly have. We know obviously the threat of Armstrong, who's had a great first half of the season. And yeah, I think a lot of good young players as well, which I always like to look at their squad. And you're right, a fluid passing team that we're going to have to make sure that we make it difficult for them and obviously play our own football as well.
You said you were a little bit frustrated at the end of the game against Queen's Park Rangers. Was that because you couldn't break them down, or were you just frustrated with the inability to sort of retain possession and get that fast ball into the box?
I just thought I thought a lot of our play was good, but I thought we started off very well. We put some very good balls in the box, and I just thought towards the end of the game, the quality of our ball into the box deteriorated a little bit. We brought Stephen on the basis that we didn't feel we were getting enough threat in the box and enough movement in the box. And unfortunately, then he didn't really get very many good crosses to work off. The best cross probably falls to Nick Powell, and the header that he misses the target with. So that's was our frustration, because I think away from home, we had a lot of control of the game. I felt we weathered the early storm from QPR that came from kickoff and led to a number of corners that we had to defend and gave them a little bit of momentum. But I thought after that, then we were in control of the game. And when we were really dominant with the first 20, 25 minutes of the second half, we couldn't find that goal that obviously would have given us that cushion. And unfortunately, you come away with a point as opposed to 3 points.
Can we have an update on the current injury situation?
Yeah, nothing major to report. We hope to have John Mikel available for tomorrow. He's trained today, so we'll just see if there's any reaction to that later today. But other than John, everyone else is still unavailable.
So Lucas and Gregory, are they anywhere nearer to getting fit?
Lee Gregory's not close. Lee Gregory will be a number of weeks away from obviously being back on the grass with us. And Sam Clucas is realistically, you're not going to have. We're looking at January for both those players.
And Tom Ince, that was his first start. How's he feeling? Because obviously not playing all the time, he may be a little bit jaded, or is he ready and available for tomorrow?
No, ready. I think there's no doubt about that. I was pleased with Thomas. He's not had a lot of opportunities this season, mainly because if you look at Tyrese's form playing on the right as well, has been a factor in that. And I felt he had some very good moments in the game. We didn't get enough ball possibly to him in the second half of the game as well. So he's ready to play, and we have other options to play in the wide area as well. We've played Jacob there. Fletcher's available again. Realistically, it was a lot to ask Fletcher to start 3 games in a week, having been out for 3.5 weeks. So we had to be mindful of that. And so yeah, we'll have a front three, I think, which is capable of creating chances and hopefully, obviously, taking chances as well.
When you were the manager of Ireland, you get a tune out of players, whatever position you've asked them to play in. How different is it to do that week in, week out in the championships?
I think it's different. It's difficult. I think you have to have players that are flexible to do that, and that, a lot of that is their mindset and their attitude to do that, and also are they tactically able to take the information on in what is a very short space of time. We've seen that in how we've played in the past with Nick Powell, for example, playing off the left in certain games for us. So yeah, look, the most important thing is that the structure of the team is right for me, and that when you bring players in, that they have a chance to perform well because the team is well structured. And I think we've been consistent since we come in with how we prepare the team. Of course, performances vary over a season, but we're consistent with the work that we do in the training pitch, and hopefully over time that consistency will pay off.
Well, you talk about consistency, and you've certainly got the balance right about not conceding. But are you more frustrated now, having lost Tyrese? It's going to be difficult to get the balls through to the likes of Powell and Fletcher to score more goals.
Yeah, but the players have to take the responsibility themselves to create the opportunities. We have enough attacking talent in our team to, I think, create chances. The onus is on the players. I think, when you look at the possession we had at certain times in the game against QPR, we could have done better with the final ball, the final piece of movement. And but so I look, as I said at the outset when we lost Tyrese, we have a responsibility as a team and a group of players and a squad to replace that, and so that there's opportunities for players to come in, and but you have to have an impact at the top end of the pitch. Simple as that, and we need to see more of that than we've seen in the previous two games.
You've said the current side's evolving, and you've got some youngsters that have come into the team and done exceptionally well. They came in through the cup matches and are now regular first teamers. Have you got your eye on any other youngsters that might be pushing through?
Yeah, we've got some younger players, like Adam Porter is a good example, who's trained quite regularly with the first team when the opportunity arises. But I think that this crop of players that we have at 23s are younger. They're still probably 12 to 18 months away from where, for example, Tyrese Campbell and Josh Timon were when I came into the building. And the pleasing thing for us is that a number of these players who are an integral part of the squad now, Collins and Suter are good examples. They were in the club, but they weren't essentially part of the first team squad and weren't training with the team, and so it took us a little bit of time to get to know them. And look, the club has invested in these players, and when they were in the Premier League, with the intention that they would come through and be first team players. And the pleasing thing is now that's the case, that we have the likes of these young players not only in the squad but starting players, and are keeping experienced players out of the team as well. And that's the challenge when you get the opportunity as a young player to hold on to your position. And I think that their performance merit them staying in the team.
And finally, from me, Jordan Cousins, he's worked incredibly hard and been a bit of a revelation in the last few matches. You must be really pleased with how he's covered. Yeah,
he's done really well, Jordan. I mean, a little bit similar to, we brought him into the team last season, I think, in our 6th game, and he gave us a little bit of defensive stability in midfield, and allowed, Sam Clucas and Joe Allen in particular to go and flourish in front of him. And he's come in again with John Obi being injured, and I think he's done a great job in those games. I don't think necessarily, John coming back means that Jordan can't be part of a midfield as well. I do think his attributes are very good at winning the ball back, both in particularly in the opposition half as well. So his performances have been good. He had a little bit of an ankle issue earlier in the season, but that's cleared up, and I think he's back where he was this time last season.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. George now, please.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. First of all, obviously, you're going to this game despite the fact goals have been in short supply in the last couple of games. But again, clean sheets, that's a very good starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we've not scored in 2 games, but, I still think when you look at our goals tally for the season, it's high. We've suffered, an injury to one of our key attacking players, and previous to that, we suffered an injury to some of our strikers as well. So we're going to suffer a little bit because of that. But you're right, the clean sheets has been very positive, particularly, if you look at our back four and our goalkeeper, for example, that have played in recent weeks. We've got three players that have essentially come through the club's academy, and 2 players that came to the club as free transfers, and they've done extremely well in terms of how they've played. So I think the clean sheets is something that we want to maintain, and we're continually working to improve and have that little bit more cutting edge at the top end of the pitch.
as you always said many times, Michael, particularly the fact this current situation we're in, it's relentless, isn't it, really? It does stretch the squad, but also in terms of the physical side and the mental side, you've got to take into account with the man management you and your staff have to do, because that's a big factor, isn't it, in these kind of days we have at the moment.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy for the players. You know, I've seen a lot of managers recently make comment on that people maybe underestimate what it's like for the players in the current situation to continually be, playing every 3 days. And listen, their appetite for the game has been great. I can't think of a game this season where I've come off and I could have been critical of the players' attitude or their appetite for the game. At times we'd like to have played better, of course, and it's difficult to keep the level of performance every 3 days at that level. But in terms of what the players have given us, and when players have come into the team, their attitude has been fantastic as well, having previously not been in the team. And that's all we can ask of them, really. But I think we're a good group of players, a really good group of lads in the club at the minute, and with a common cause to try and obviously maintain where we are at the minute and push ahead and try and push up the league and finish in a position which will give us something really to play for at the end of the season.
So the team you faced on Saturday, a very similar situation in more ways, and one day would want to do it as well. Different opposition to what you've encountered the last couple of games, and certainly it will be a different contest in that way. You really set up for each team as you go on the way, Michael, and decide where, or a lot of the times you have to concentrate on what you want to do?
It's a combination of the two, to be honest. It also is, you have to take into account the form of your own players in certain positions as well, and look to freshen that up where we, asking the same players to continually play every 3 days is eventually going to lead to a lower level of performance. So there's ways in that area that we can freshen the team up. I think also, you have to be mindful of the opposition and what the problems they may or may not bring. But you're right, Blackburn are a team with aspirations to make the playoffs. They missed out last season. I think they've got, as I touched on earlier, I think they've got a consistent squad. They've signed young players that are now starting to flourish, and they'll have ambitions of a top six position as well.
And certainly they have the armoury within their field. You mentioned Armstrong, of course, but they do have other players as well. Possibly be a high-tempo game, I would imagine, Michael. Yeah,
they do. They'll move the ball, and we have to be ready for that. They have players in the midfield that can handle the ball. Rothwell, Holtby, in particular, obviously Armstrong. And then they've got a bit of physicality on the sides, whether it's Brereton and whether it's Gallagher that have been playing there. So they do have good options in their squad. There's no doubt about that. And I think they've got good pace on the sides as well. Niambi's an attacking fullback. So look, we're well versed on Blackburn. The games here were tight. We lost a narrow game here at the end when we were pushing for 3 points, and we drew at Ewood Park 0-0. So there's been very little in the 2 games that we've played them in my time at the club, and I've no doubt it'll be no different tomorrow.
Finally, from me, Michael, we'll be able to have subs if Concussion comes into the beam. What's your take on that? You'll be able to use extra substitutes. How do you view that? Is that a good move, you feel?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a common sense move. Let's be honest. We're not disrupting the game very much. Obviously, to test a player for concussion takes a little bit longer than maybe we have recognised in the past. And the worst thing when you have a player off the pitch is, as a coach and manager, is to make an assessment of how long you can go off the pitch without that player. So it takes away that anxiety for the coach. It takes a little bit of the pressure out of the situation for the medical team as well, so that they can make a really informed assessment of a player, as opposed to being conscious that their team's down a man. So all in all, I think again a decision which makes common sense, along with obviously the changing the decision to have obviously 5 subs from 9.
Thank you, Michael. All the best tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Now Dave, and then Mike, please.
Michael, you talked about Stoke making an impact at the top end of the pitch, and certainly that's obviously very poignant for the Blackburn game because, I mean, they've scored 9 in their last 6, you've only scored 3, so you're desperate for goals. You've had players available like Sam Vokes, who you haven't used, Tom Ince, who you have, and Jake Brown, to come in to replace people like Tyrese and Fletcher when he was out. But they're very different types of players. It's not just a matter of just slotting them in and goals will happen, will it?
No, look, there's different types of players, and you know what we've lost, and you know we brought Jacob to the club because he's got real pace, and you know he has that energy at the top end of the pitch. You know, Sam Vokes is different. He brings more of a physical presence into the game. I think Fletcher's a little bit a combination of all the players, to be honest, and Tyrese is obviously cutting edge player that we've utilised very well in a wide area. So no, look, it is difficult at times for players to come in, and I suppose we don't expect, for example, Sam Vokes to come in and give us what Tyrese Campbell gave us or give us what Jacob Brown would give us. So you know how we build a team around that is key to obviously trying to get the maximum out of your attacking players, and that's the challenge. And sometimes, you know, it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes, you know, it's hard for those players when they come in. They maybe don't get the service that is suited to them. And you know, the hardest thing to do is obviously in football is to score a goal. And so you know, we have to continue to work. And all of the players that you mentioned have given us something at various points in the time that I've been here, and you know, whatever we go with tomorrow, we believe it will be the right attacking formula to obviously try and win the game.
But you must be really pleased that John Obi Mikel is available at least for tomorrow's game. He really adds a hell of a lot to your side, doesn't he?
Yeah, John has you know, when you bring a player to John, the club, he has great physical presence, but he just has a general presence on the pitch and is used to the ball, everything. And I think he's one of those players that the players around him respond to him as well. He gets the best out of the players around him rather. And he's been a real, you know, a big positive since we've come to the club. We knew it would take a few weeks to get him up to speed because he hadn't played since last March, but his attitude to getting to doing that has been fantastic. And you know, he has that resilience to be able to play and deal with the physical side of the championship, but he obviously demonstrates his quality when in possession as well.
I bet your eyes are not on the Spurs game, but do you think any of the players are thinking about that?
No, they'll not be. We haven't mentioned it at all. We've not had time, to be honest, to even think like that. I haven't. You know, it's so difficult to look more than one game ahead at this minute in time, and all our focus has been on Blackburn. And you know, come 5 o'clock tomorrow night, we'll turn our attention to Spurs.